to your cars, please. All drivers to your cars.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Underrated Podcast. This is a brand new podcast where we discuss films that we think are underrated, underappreciated, or even ones that have just slipped under the radar and passed most people by. This show is a new collaboration called the Undercast Company, comprised of podcasters Alan and Fred Torres.
It's good.
Ariel and Sergio Ortiz. Say hi, guys, for the audio.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh yeah, my bad.
And I am Jeremy McDuff, and yeah, together we're the Undercast Company. Today we're going to be talking about Speed Racer, a 2008 film directed by the Watchowskis based on the manga and the anime.
Oh, yeah.
The film stars Emile Hirsch, Christina Ricci, Matthew Fox, John Goodman, and Susan Sarandon. It received poor reviews with only a 40% on Rotten Tomatoes, and was a box office bomb, earning only $94 million worldwide against a $120 million budget plus marketing. So, guys, let's get into it. Let's talk about this movie. Let's talk about what happened in the movie first. What the plot was.
Oh, basically, if you know of was it Makagogo or Speed Racer, it's basically about this kid or young adult that's
He's 18 years old. Yeah.
18 years old. Okay, yeah, that he's a speed. He's a what is that?
He's a race
car driver.
Yeah.
He's a speed
Yeah,
racer.
he's a speed racer, and that's the thing. That's the thing about this movie. It's very it's a movie about a racing family with the main character called Speed Racer.
Well, because the thing Speed Racer comes from the cartoon Speed Racer, which is an anime, and that's why it's so eccentric.
Yeah,
that's why we're here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's why we're here, but we'll get into
Talk
that.
about anime.
But yeah, it's kind of about his racing trials and tribulations,
From
and,
the bottom to the top.
Yeah, and you know about him dealing, his family's troubles. That you find out early on in the first scene with this cool montage that his brother had died,
And literally drives him to race.
I got it.
Yeah. Oh,
but yeah,
we did it, boys. Straight
I
down.
did. That's it. We're done.
and thank you guys. We've been it's kind of just about him fighting all this kind of corporate corruption and finding out, fighting for the real racing against the kind of fixers and all this stuff and
The
all
dark
the shady
secrets
underworld.
of that everyone knows of in racing. That there's these dark secrets.
Yeah. What did you guys think of that movie?
So, do you want to start first?
I'll start. I'll say that this is one of my favorite movies. I think this movie is a fucking masterpiece. I think it is, that's the one reason why starting this podcast, it was like the first thing I was like, we gotta do Speed Racer, because it bombed at the box office. I know the critics just totally misunderstood it, but I think it is just a brilliant, because it's so different. I think that it's really got all these kind of amazing visuals that the only thing that I can really compare it to there's some animated movies that kind of do the same thing where they're very, very stylistic. It's not a realistic movie. It's very much just like, it looks like you're watching a live action cartoon. The only movie recently I can compare it to is maybe Into the Spider-Verse. The only live action movie I can think to compare it to is Sin City, but that's just so much black and whites, where this one is just completely colorful that it really works, and the acting is so sincere, even though it's just like this big over-the-top plot, and even though it's ridiculous, you really care about all these characters, and the cinematography is incredible. It doesn't look like real life. It's not representational film. It's just it's like an abstract film that uses all these... the storytelling is really interesting, how it's a lot of times it's non-linear, like someone will be describing something and cut back and forth. Obviously, all the actors are really great. Emile Hirsch kills it. Parents, Susan Sarandon and John Goodman are great. And then, of course, Fred's number one girl, Christina Ricci, is amazing.
Our best performances are every one she comes out in.
Even Casper?
Listen,
Yeah. What?
that was the first time
I know.
at my young age I knew what true love was.
Mm-hmm.
The only time I wish I was a ghost. That's all I can say.
So you bring up acting without bringing up the corporate man.
There's I would say anyone who likes Speed Racer, or if you guys definitely, if you listen to this podcast, you want to watch it, check it out. There's also a really good video essay I would recommend by Patrick H. Willems, who talks about how Speed Racer is kind of an underrated masterpiece and how it uses color and all these interesting techniques. I really say check out the video essay.
For me, it was definitely like, you know, and then especially when you know it's based off of this anime and it's very colorful and like the color scheme is right out of the Japanese like schoolboy anime dream. Basically, what I made a note of. It stays true to like the 80s kind of like feel of it. Of, you know,
was it 60s, right?
60s, sorry.
Yeah.
60s.
It's very, it does have that feel.
Sorry. Yeah, the 60s kind of feel of it. And it knew what it was, and I think that's what made it a lot more special and good for me. And like, it's definitely a really good like kids movie. Because that's what
it's a kids movie, but it works for adults too.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah, it does work for adults. And I found that it was like you said about the non-linear kind of like going back and forth with the flashbacks to cutscenes and things and interweaving them. And it was a pretty good way and like a break from the mold.
Sergio, what about you?
What do you want to talk about first? A lot of the aspects of the movie. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of moving parts to this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you know
It's
what?
like a car.
It's like a car. But actually, you know what?
Yeah, the Mach 5.
You know what? If we're talking about the visuals, yeah, there is. But honest to God, I cannot. And I told you about this too when we were watching the movie. I could not help but like think in my head, these people are just in front of green screens, and I don't know about you, but that kind of just takes me out of the movie when it's so like just so. Like it, I don't know. I mean, I get it. It's like an art style, but and then I got a lot of throwbacks to like the Cat in the Hat live action movie. It's just so, and then like, I don't know. I mean, a lot of the visuals for me, and then especially just considering it's green screen, there's not a lot of room for. Well, when you're talking about special effects, you have to first look at the special effects, which I'm glad they didn't go with like trying to be super realistic, because then down the line it would look outdated. But it's almost as if it was outdated coming out of the gate,
Yeah,
if you know what I mean.
If I can say something, I completely agree with that. Because, like, the visuals of the movie itself... No. Don't get me wrong. I love it. Okay, they put the CGI, they put the budget and the best parts they could. Like, all the racing scenes and all that stuff is great. But there's a scene in the very beginning of the movie where it's a flashback where Speed's getting out of school... And then his older brother picks him up, and he's like, "Hey, can we go?" You cannot tell me when they're driving down the street, it looks like a Nick in the Morning.
That's the
cartoon.
That's the point. That's the point.
No, I know.
Because here's
what
the thing.
I'm trying to say is,
I think
it's just
they ran with it.
they ran with it, but that's just the weird
No,
part.
because if you look at it in the sense of this is a regular movie, like a regular movie that we came up with, then you got that idea.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you grew up watching the Speed Racer cartoons. Like, I watched them.
No, I did too. No.
Then this movie makes complete sense because they basically made a cartoon live action.
Exactly.
That's why the colors are the way they are. That's why the cars spin the way they do.
And
that's why it's 3D,
I
like
think
everything.
That scene you're talking about, Alan, is something that is like, for me, is a big signpost. Like, this is what the kind of movie is going to be. It's not going to be a realistic movie. It's going to be a movie that, like, there's that one, and then there's another one I always think of in the middle where, like, Speed's little brother and the monkey are, like, driving through the factory.
And
I love that scene because it's like everyone's kind of like, oh, and it's very intentionally just like there's something in the background disconnected, and it's kind of mirroring that like old cartoon style. You have a background and you have something else that's clearly drawn over it, or you have like just a loop going on in the background or something. And I think that's the style
because the thing is,
replicated.
In the cartoon, you see the monkey and Speed's brother do things.
Yeah.
Like they do things for him.
Yeah.
And if they didn't have that little kind of weird adventure that you saw. And maybe that one part where they could jump out of the trunk, there'd be almost no need for them in the movie. But they were like an integral part in the TV show.
But yeah, that visual style they have, where it's very disconnected, where it's very like they're like I remember that scene, and my roommate I was watching was like, "Oh, this is really green screen." I'm like, that's the whole point.
No, I know, I get that, and I understand that.
Okay, where did the budget go? How much did you say it was?
The budget was $94 million.
Yeah, and it went to the race.
Yeah, and how much did it make back in the box office?
Oh, sorry, it was the budget was 124. It made back 94 million. That's worldwide. That's not even domestic.
Damn. Okay.
But the whole thing, I think what he's trying to say is that there are some scenes. Don't get us wrong. Like I like it. I love the movie, but there's some times where like I get what you're trying to say is disconnected, but like it just looks very like. I get it's supposed to be cartoon. It just looks kind of off. But other than that, you know, like the rest of the movie is amazing. But I
Yeah.
want you to go ahead and finish.
Yeah, please.
Well, I don't really know. I mean, in terms of budget wise, that's a lot of. I can't help but think like, where did it go?
Well, because there's like the whole movie
So
is
the race-
special
no,
effects.
So all
the special effects. Because you got to remember that when the movie came out, and how much more expensive and the technology was. I mean,
Okay.
'cause you can't compare the technology now to when the movie first
But
came
like,
out.
yeah, every
Like,
frame
every
is
frame is
digitally,
digitally
altered,
done.
like
Everything is.
significantly.
Well, then I
Because the whole budget was basically making the cars, making the scenes,
the race
all the
scenes,
stuff, the tracks, all that stuff. That's where all the budget went.
Yeah.
So, do you think that it withstood the test of time?
I think that it's actually improved over time. Like people over time have come to appreciate it a lot more because it was. I think it was really ahead of its time, and it still is ahead of its time. We didn't get movies like that.
Yeah, I think it will stand the test of time because it looks like it's source material, and it's basically an homage
if you can
to
enjoy
Transformers isn't going to hold up.
If you can
'cause
enjoy
Transformers
Guardians of the
try to make it
Galaxy with all these
realistic.
bright colors and all this stuff, people are going to appreciate it more now.
And like there's like a scene, they bring this up in that video I was talking about, where there's like no depth of field. Like things in the background of movies look blurry because you lose real cameras and stuff. Everything, like the person in front of you and the background are both crystal clear. It's not trying to look like reality or cameras or anything.
But do you think that can sometimes be a little bit disorientating? Because that definitely like threw me for a loop a little bit.
Me
Like,
too.
I think on first watch it is definitely disorienting because
Not even for me. It was the second and third watch like that. Just those scenes, like the very like nothing's going on. They're just talking. It is very like, oh man, that's kind of
and it makes sense because like in the cartoon, a lot of the time when he would do the spins and he would do the jumps, they kind of slowed it down. Here they didn't. Everything was done like
no, they had still
slow down sometimes. But I mean, for the most part, even though the cars are spinning around when they hit each other, I mean they're spinning. Like it's like they're going down a race and they're racing and it's racing the way it goes. And so, like, two cars hit each other, and they spin around, and they're flying, and then one car jumps over another car.
They did in the long distance race.
Yeah.
I think that's what I liked about it is that every race has a different kind of style, so it doesn't feel repetitive.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and that's why it can be a little jarring because it is 3D. Well, not 3D, but like the 3D graphics is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So it can be a little jarring. I can see where all of a sudden, like for example, the last race is what I'm talking about, where it really is fast. Yeah. Where all of a sudden one car hits another car, they spin around, one car explodes, one car flips over another car, and then it just non-stop, like move. And I can see that when you're watching it, it can be maybe a little hard.
I think what he and I are trying to say is it's not those scenes, it's like just the plain Jane scenes, the scenes where they're just talking, where like I said, like when when him and his older brother are just driving down the street, it just looks really kind of off. But the rest of the movie, like you know where they put the budget mainly at, you know. Like
I still like those scenes though. I still think that they work for
I mean, it makes sense what you're saying, but
I get what you're saying.
The thing that would be a little bit more jarring though is if they went from like a regular view of them walking where it's all normal to all of a sudden going into the race.
You have to kind of keep a consistent style, otherwise when you go into the races you're going to
you'll really notice notice what happens.
Because you'll be like, oh, it was just like a normal street a second ago, and now
it's like
craziness.
Super bright colors. And
unless you play it off, like that's the beauty of the race, where it's supposed to make you all disoriented.
It looks like a Hot Wheels track. I mean, that's
that's
what.
That's
the point. Yeah, that's the good stuff about it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love this movie. I remember seeing it in the theater with like a bunch of friends in college, like opening weekend, and I wasn't even hyped to see it, but when I walked out, I was like, that was fucking incredible. Like it was. I remember the theater was like dead. It was like a midnight show, and it was like me and my friends and one dad and his son. I was just like, why aren't more people in this movie? And now I think finally it's starting kind of come around. I have seen some other articles where it's like Speed Racer is really underrated, and like even people who like don't like the movie are like, I understand what it was going for, whereas like it kind of just got trashed by everybody when it first came out. But I don't know, Alan, did you have any like specific points you wanted to make?
Oh man, there's so many. I mean, first off, like me and Fred grew up watching a lot of anime, so like for me being able to finally see an anime up on the big screen, like even if it was Speed Racer, like it was still pretty badass. And the same thing happened with me where like a couple of friends of mine from high school, I think we just graduated, so we had like free time and we went. The whole theater was dead, like there was nobody in there. It was like the 4 or 5 of us, and we watched it and we just had like the most fun. Like that's one of my most memorable experiences watching it. But like just all the iconic moments, like the races and then him jumping out of the car and doing the pose was like
it was where he slides and he does the
it was pretty much godlike.
That was like that we cheered at, and then also when he like bumps into somebody and explodes, and Speed just goes, "Get that weak shit off my track!" Like me and my friends lost our fucking minds.
No, and then I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to take the best moment out of the movie
Yes.
for all you guys. I'm very sorry, but like the moment where I was like, the very first one that I said, "Oh shit, I love this movie," is when it's Racer X and like there's one of the opponents. It's the long one where they're on a team. They're all like, it's like 3 people a team. They have like the Japanese guy with them. And like this one dude's like, I'm gonna flip over Racer X and I'm gonna like drop a bomb or some shit. And then he flips over it and then Racer X just fucking slaps him back in the face. And then he fucking crashes and I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
And then Racer X is like,
Matthew Fox is such a badass in this
He's
movie.
a fucking amazing actor and I'm very bothered that like you don't see him as
me too, because I know like a big Lost fan. This came around like right
that was
like
definitely
right in the like middle of Lost. So.
Lost literally like threw him into everything. Like I didn't watch it, but like I kept seeing him everywhere, and I was like, Racer X, perfect.
Yeah,
I mean that fight scene at night.
Yeah,
shirtless, good.
That's right.
Yeah.
With the ninjas or whatever.
My boy Jack Shepard, man.
No, but yeah, going back to like classic Japanese anime kind of like moments of like there was so many like with the meeting of the 2 bad guys and like there was like them going back and forth and like the sliding against each other, kind of like very classic like then classic like the Japanese evil close up kind of thing, and then with the assassins scene like stand off and then a zoom in on Racer X's eyes and then they start kind of thing.
Well, in
was,
that,
like,
in
all
that
those
same
classic
vein,
moments.
the beginning scene, like the first like kind of montage where it's Speed trying to break his brother's record at Thunderhead, or he's about to break his record and he doesn't end up doing it.
Oh,
but
you mean Mario Kart?
Yeah,
when you fight
like Mario
against the ghosts.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like you get all this kind of exposition. You have all these kind of like montages and flashbacks, but it doesn't feel like exposition. It's very much showing, not telling. Where it'll be like they're talking about like how Racer X died, and like it like shows it goes through like all of Speed's kind of family members, and then also Trixie and Speed himself, and all these flashbacks. The way it's kind of done is very like artistic, and it kind of has like the heads of the different announcers come by.
Oh, they're like turning or whatever.
Yeah,
that's a very anime thing, right?
Yeah, it's very anime.
It's very like it pans to like an announcer like Nani, and then it's like going.
Yeah, and even when they were like speaking other languages, like there's a guy announcing in Japanese and German, you get the context of it. It really helps you like understand like okay, it sets you up for this movie and like what's going to go on and what's going to happen without being like and then 5 years ago Rex Racer died, and it just does it in a really interesting, cool way that does feel very anime and makes you engaged in the movie because it keeps cutting back and forth between the race and what led up to the race, and it's all relevant and it's tied together thematically.
What about you, Fred? What do you got to say?
Well, no, I think we pretty much said what I was gonna say.
I stole it from
This is okay. What?
Okay, I do want to add one more thing that I enjoyed about that's one of my favorite things about this movie. Like it breaks down kind of like. And it does things in different ways. And just by having literally in the middle of the whole movie, like the bad guy explaining his plot, his evil plot, and you're like, it happens in the middle of the movie.
Yeah, while he's explaining the plot, while it's cutting forward to that plot actually happening, and Speed's like, there's no way that's going to happen, but you've just seen it play it out.
Yeah, and I said that's a very interesting way. And it gives them that change up of like, the ABC of storytelling kind of
So
way.
We should start talking about the plot now, that's what I was going to say. Because what we've been talking about so far was mainly like the visual aspect.
The kind of stylistic elements.
So let's talk about the plot. You want to give a rundown of the plot real quick? Yeah,
so the plot, like I was saying, starts out with Speed at Thunderhead, and he's in his new Mach 6 car. He's got it's kind of his, short track car. And he does really well, he gets a lot of attention, so he gets noticed by Royalton Racer. It's I forget the actor's name, but he's
the Mach 5.
He has the Mach 5, but then they give him the Mach 6.
No, he has the Mach 6 at the beginning. It's kind of not clear, but he does have the Mach 6 at the beginning.
Yeah, he drives the Mach 6 most.
Well, he has the Mach 6 at the beginning. Then he meets Royalton, and Royalton is this big kind of conglomerate. He's got all the racing people under him who are kind of like he's got this big evil corporation. You don't really know he's evil at first. It's played by the guy from V for Vendetta.
England prevails.
Yeah. And he comes in and he's just like, hey, Speed. He's kind of slick talking. He's like, come work for me. And Speed's like, I'm kind of just work for like my independent racing family. And there you do find out that Rex Racer, his older brother, did kind of try to break away from the family and work for this evil kind of corporation earlier. It seemed like Rex was like fixing all these races, and then Rex died in this long distance race called the Casa Cristo. But anyway, kind of fast forward, and Speed thinks about it a little. He decides not to go with Royalton and kind of strike out on his own. And Royalton's like, guess what? Racing is fixed. This is what's going to happen. If you don't work for me, I'm going to pay these guys and they're going to fuck you up because racing is all about just like the stock market. He's trying to do this. It's kind of a complicated scheme, but he does have this kind of takeover plan with this Japanese company. The actor Rain and his sister, Rain's one of the other racers. He tells him, "Yeah, what's going to happen is you're going to crash, and we're going to make it look like it's your fault. There's going to be litigation against you." Speed says that's never going to happen, but it does. He gets the Mach 6 is destroyed in this race in Fuji. Speed's like, "Okay, well, we're fucked." Then their litigation comes against the family. Then the inspector detector, who the racer family knows, shows up, and he says, who they knew from the investigation for Rex's death, who works with this kind of shady racer named Racer X, who's basically a badass, who we were just talking about.
Yep.
They're like, okay, basically come work for us. We're gonna try and uncover what's been going on. We're gonna have, basically they are gonna get the information they have from Rain, who had been working for the evil corporation. He's trying to kind of rebel against them, and he apparently has some files, so give them to them if they help him win the Casa Cristo race because of some stock buyouts and stuff like that. It's a whole thing. So they end up going in this long distance race to Casa Cristo. Speed, while his Mach 6 is wrecked, he still has the long distance Mach 5 still. They do that race, which includes the Casa Cristo, which is where his brother died.
And that's the scene where they like include all the parts. Like they give all the parts to the Mach 5 where he has like, you know, if you press F, it gives you, you know, you pay respects, and then G gives you the G gives you the little plane to see ahead of time and all that
Trixie's
stuff.
up in the helicopter, and
which is very referenced to the as well.
Because Trixie in the cartoon has a helicopter that flies around.
And there's a couple cool fights. They have like a ninja fight, and then the next day, like they have like a fight down in
You mean the nanjas?
The nanjas, yeah. They have a fight down in the kind of crevasse. Speed and Rain and Racer X end up winning the race. They're kind of a team, and so that gets Rain into he wins. So his plan works, and his dad's able to sell his company for a bunch of money. But Rain was lying; he didn't have any of the files. So Speed gets screwed over, and the inspector gets screwed over, and Racer X gets screwed over. But then Rain's sister shows up and is like, "Hey, here's the tickets to the Grand Prix, which we won for winning the Casa Cristo. You can compete in this and just fuck everybody's plans up because." Royalton, who's the main bad guy, has plans for him to win this and send his stocks up when he wins, and because he controls the car that's in this, blah, blah, blah. So Speed's got to win this race and pretty much prove that racing with heart beats all this fixed bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes and does it, and the last race is fucking hype. Like, the last race
it's
insane.
It's literally a grand finale.
It's
the best race.
Mm-hmm.
And best graphics too. Like just the whole that one section of the race where it's basically a gyroscope or it's of a zebra running.
The beginning, and because at the beginning they're like, okay, Speed's in this race. Literally anybody who takes him out, I will give $1 million to. So everyone's just trying to fucking just take Speed out of the race. So he's not only trying to win, he's trying to stop every other racer who's cheating, and they have illegal things that are trying to hit him that you can't have in race cars, and he's just dodging and weaving out of these guys. And I should say before that, because they do, they're like, okay, the Mach 6 is broken, the Mach 5 is in a long distance car, we have no car, and there's a montage where they build this car in 36 hours or something, which is impressive because Royalton's machines can only build it in
No, they said they were going to build it in 32.
Right,
because they
he
can
says
build
it in 36. Thank you. So they do a quick montage where they build the car, he races it, and through this amazing last 20 or so minutes of the movie, wins the race, proves that racing with heart wins. They figure out that Royalton is a bad guy, he ends up going to jail, the good guys win, the bad guys lose, and that's the movie.
Yeah.
Roger Allen is his name.
Roger Allen, thank you.
That guy,
he's a really good actor.
Okay, real quick, I'm going to say, that guy goes hard in this movie.
He's
he goes
Speed, I'll show you the real what racing is really about.
It's nothing. It's all about fucking.
That's the real thing of racing there.
He plays the classic trope, Japanese trope of is this guy a good guy or a bad guy, and then switching making that switch in a second.
But I mean, he has that face of even his smile is just evil and oh dude, I'm gonna fuck.
I think more than anything, I think he plays a trope of a business tycoon in that sense of I'm going to be nice to you because I need something from you. And the moment that he switches on him, He's like, no, man, you don't understand.
Yeah.
This is a hostile takeover now.
Yep.
This isn't now being friendly.
Mhm.
I'm going to get what I want because
Yep.
I always get what I want,
'Cause
and you're going to give it to me.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
But that switch
and
up
one
was
thing I forgot to mention: Racer X secretly was Rex all along.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
He got plastic surgery to fake it out, even though he wasn't Matthew Fox before. He got plastic surgery to turn into Matthew Fox.
I'm very torn on which one I like more.
You mean
They're
like
both
who's
pretty
handsome?
hot.
They're
Yeah.
both Rex.
I mean, I just
Yeah,
am like
Rex.
biased towards Matthew Fox because of Lost. I don't know anything else that the original Rex has been
He's in Heretic.
He was in Speed Racer.
in.
True.
I mean,
He's in Speed Racer
technically
and
the truth, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the plot.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much the gist of the movie.
Yeah.
I mean,
But yeah, so we've talked about the kind of visuals. What do you guys think of the kind of like themes about like this evil corporation and just like you can't fight against
it's
it?
a typical thing because the Speed Racer cartoons, it would be basically him against the racers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Against the races.
See, I'm
against
like,
the rain.
I've watched it as a kid, but I was too young to really remember a lot of it.
I watched it young, but I also watched it later on.
It's also like the Hanna-Barbera, wacky
Yeah, that's
racers
exactly.
kind of thing.
Mhm.
It's just, I think the Hanna-Barbera probably took notes from Speed Racer.
Yeah, because Hanna-Barbera was garbage and they just ripped off everything.
this
Well,
is
I
like
like that
this,
Hanna-Barbera.
this has a lot of story in the stuff, with the family and the racing. What I'm saying is, if you made every racer fight each other, kind of like the thing, it would take too long. So you had to make someone be the main villain, which he ends up being the villain, and that's how he kind of uses the racers in Speed Racer. So it takes a little bit from it and kind of just mixes it around. Now, what I hoped was just like in the animes, Speed Racer finds out that his brother's his brother. Like he finds out eventually that Racer X is his brother.
He kind of like from the beginning, like is
He
like
does,
he takes
but when he
mask,
takes off the mask, I was expecting him to say, "Well, I'm your brother, but I'm on the secret thing that's going on." Because Speed Racer finds that out, like, "Oh, my brother's doing the secret thing, and I can't tell anybody."
Yeah, there is that scene at the end where he's like,
but he basically tells him though. He straight up tells him, "I'm not your brother."
Yeah.
Now that's not what I didn't expect.
Yeah.
I expected him to be like, "Well, now you know who I am, but quiet about it." But instead, he goes, "I'm not your brother," and then, like you said,
that's a really emotional scene where he
Mhm.
kind of goes through like they're like, "Why didn't you tell him?" He's like, "I can't do that to him," and like Matthew Fox just fucking kills it in that scene. Just that's where you see all the backstory of him faking his death and like getting plastic surgery, and like Matthew Fox's face just like sells it so well, like with no words.
But like I said, I expected him just to know that
I
that was
honestly
his brother.
thought they were gonna do that in the sequel, which obviously
That's what I thought. That's what I was saying. I was hoping that there was going to be a sequel, and that's where you
because they were like, they were saving it because they didn't want to like do too much because the movie was already doing a lot. They were like, okay, we'll save this for the sequel.
So there was a sequel plan.
They
had to. It's the Watchowskis. They were probably hands on going. It's going to be a banger. We're gonna make money. We're gonna make another one, and they did the Matrix.
So with that, do you want to move on to like why it's possible that it became underrated? Because that ties into like what my thought is.
Okay, yeah. Why do you think that it got these bad reviews and didn't make money?
So in the whole scheme of the Wachowskis, where did this fall in the Matrix?
I think it's better than any of the Matrix.
No.
movies.
In timeline.
I want to say like I think this came out 2007,
2008 or
2008.
And so that was after all the Matrix movies.
Okay, so I think
it was the first thing they made after the Matrix.
But I think that's what played into the possibility of not getting as much recognition because. At least it's general like consensus that the last two Matrix movies weren't considered the greatest and weren't.
This is news to me.
Yeah, I know. Right now.
The general consensus.
He was the one.
Yeah.
Of like that compared to the first one, people are like, "Oh, these are kind of like."
Well,
like
I think it was really mismarketed too. Like, I think that like if you watch the trailers. It's not really clear if it's a kids movie or if it's a general action movie. And I guess like the movie is a lot of different things, but it's kind of marketed much more serious, like a Transformers movie, than it actually ends up being.
I'm not gonna lie, the poster. Sorry, real quick. The poster though was pretty fucking hype.
The poster
it was just.
Yeah.
I think it was like the tire of like the Mach 5, and then it just said go. I was like, perfect.
That was a good. There were some other trailers of like there's one where it's just like literally just like a speed racer in a car. It's not even colorful. It just looks like any regular movie where it's just like him and then like the Racer X car behind him. And that was a lot of the trailers. Like it doesn't look like this bright, colorful masterpiece. And if it does, it's kind of like really jarring. Like how you guys were talking about. Like you're like, what's this?
Well, just particular scenes. But go on.
Look, I think this movie just came out at the wrong time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because
it came out the same like months apart from The Dark Knight. right?
Well, no, but
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is like comic
No,
book
yeah,
movies
Dark Knight
weren't super
killed
hot yet,
Mhm.
like with superheroes. I think they were banking on people knowing who Speed Racer was. But Speed Racer is an old cartoon, and even though people might have seen it, it was when they were really young.
Yeah.
And they were banking on people know who Speed Racer is. They know what's up, and yeah, they might know, some people, but young kids that where it was maybe aiming towards to get
Mhm.
probably didn't know who Speed Racer was.
Yeah, I think what they were trying to do was, sorry to interrupt, but like, I this always happens with like comic books. I noticed, like we've been watching Doom Patrol, and like Doom Patrol, like there's so many comic books where like they're kind of known, but they kind of go off into like the ether. I think they were like, okay, Speed Racer's been kind of like not in the not in the eye of the public, so they said, hey, we're big anime fans, the Watchowskis, because I mean, Matrix had so much anime influence. They're probably like, let's do Speed Racer. We can do a colorful thing because they were on top of the world at that moment. They can do whatever the fuck they want because the Matrix trilogy made so much money. Warner Brothers like do whatever you want, fuck it. So I'm pretty sure what happened was they went too ham, but nobody knew what was going on because only older people knew about Speed Racer. And like you said, kids didn't know what the fuck Speed Racer was. There hasn't been another anime or anything like that. So they're probably like, fuck it. That's probably
there
why.
was a cartoon. It was like Speed Racer: The Next Generation.
Yeah, but nobody does.
And that one came out in 2000.
Nobody watched it.
No.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
So-
It came out probably.
So
after
that
the movie.
answer is why audiences hated it. Why do you think, or didn't go to it? Why do you think critics had such a strong... Let me read a review real fast. This is from RogerEbert.com. He didn't write the review, but this is the review, and here's the end of it. A Speed Racer is a manufactured widget, a packaged commodity that capitalizes on anthropomorphized cartoons of capitalist evil, which he some reason capitalizes capitalist evil, in order to sell itself and its ancillary products. Corporate partners in the venture, including General Mills, McDonald's, Mattel, Topps, Lego, and Target, who have furnished no promotion considered for the mention in this review.
Okay, so this guy wanted fucking toys? I
So,
guess?
like, he's saying, like, yeah, this
He's
movie
basically
only
saying
existed to sell
to
toys,
toys.
which I think is, and, like, lists a bunch of partners, which makes no sense because this movie has no product placement.
Because Transformers is to sell
Yeah.
toys. That's why Hasbro puts them out.
Yeah.
But
Even at the very, very start, too.
no, but here's the thing: like toys, every movie has toys
Yeah.
almost.
But
for,
why do you think that the critics had such a
the
negative
critics
reaction
had a
to this?
negative reaction because this, like I said, this movie came out before it should have.
Yeah.
Right, because in that time they would shit on any comic
Pop
book type
culture.
movies, any cartoon movies. Nowadays, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse comes out, and all the critics are
Everybody's
like,
dick right now.
it's the best.
I think
best
it is
movie.
very
Wait a
similar to
minute.
that.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Okay. So, a lot of the times there's a disconnect between critics and audiences, but this appears to have a sort of they both genuinely do not like this movie.
Well,
I
at the
think
beginning.
there's a
And why?
little.
Yeah.
A lot, yeah. Well, it's like like you said, they don't. A lot of people don't know what Speed Racer is. A lot of people don't, and then the advertising, the marketing don't really know what the hell they're getting into. So they went there to go see a movie, and people who knew Speed Racer knew, I guess, that they had an idea of what they're getting into.
See, I didn't really, and I still love the movie.
Okay.
Well, no. See, it's people like the movie. Wasn't a high amount of people that like the movie. It seems like all the critics hated the movie.
Yeah. Critics I think it has a 40% Rotten Tomatoes now. I honestly think it had like a worse percentage before. I think it's gotten some reviews recently. Like there's this actually really interesting article, I'll link it below, from USA Today called 10 Years Since Speed Racer Did Deserve Its Lousy Review, and that came out a few months ago. And because I think a lot of people have been kind of like giving it a second look, like years later, because it was so ahead of its time. People didn't understand it. These people just saw this colorful. They just saw these colors, and it wasn't like people want realistic film, and that's not what this is.
I don't think you can like put that on the critics because I mean they have their own credentials for what, and they if they go in, they're not expecting, at least the bare minimum, they're not expecting a realistic movie or something like The Dark Knight.
If I can interject in that, like I said before, critics. If it was a comic book movie, if it was a cartoon movie, they would shit all over that stuff most of the time. Mm-hmm. Now I'm not saying there weren't a few that came out, but a lot of the time it would be like this is so unrealistic, this is whatever. Nowadays a lot newer people that are critics are coming out and they are more versed in the pop culture and all that stuff, so they have a different appreciation, let's say, for these movies, a different understanding, and I think that's what it was. There wasn't enough understanding for this movie, and that's why it came out the way it came out. because nowadays it's probably getting better reviews because of like Guardians of the Galaxy with all its bright colors, Suicide Squad with the colors that came out.
Way ahead of its time.
It was just
critics
it
just
came
didn't
out
understand
exactly.
it.
And nowadays you've got all these new critics and new audiences that have watched all these pop culture comic book movies. There's a lot more people that are into anime than back in the day.
Yeah, this was like the same year that Iron Man started, 2008.
Yeah.
So that was like this is like 10 years now after having a Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like kind of look, even though Marvel is a lot more grounded than Speed Racer, it does kind of get the people ready. And I want to read a tweet real fast. This is from Lucas Ferrer. Don't know how to pronounce that last name. About Speed Racer, and it was from a few months back. Speed Racer is now 10 years old. And America just didn't deserve such a wholehearted, unironic, and earnest movie about a guy who drives really fast in cars. It should be on Netflix. Do yourself a favor and educate your heart and soul. Thank you. I think that perfectly captures it.
So, do you believe that if this movie was released today, would it have done better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially,
It would have made huge amounts of money.
Yeah.
Especially after
it's a cult classic for sure.
Yeah.
Especially after the Spider-Verse, and because that kind of like a parallel where it's a wholesome story of a kid and this whole thing of him achieving something and believing in himself.
Yeah, Spider-Verse replicates the look of these classic comics the same way that Speed Racer replicates the look of the anime.
Spider-Verse and that's its intention, but it never lost track of that with the style and the plot, and it wasn't never visually jarring to either, because a lot of the times
if you've seen Speed Racer before,
an animated movie.
No, that's what I'm saying. If you've seen Speed Racer though, if you watch the cartoons and you see the stuff, they have every hit that they need to hit in this thing about Speed Racer and all those guys. Not all at the same time, but the moves with it where he jumps, the car jumps, the blades that come out.
Okay.
I mean, they have those hits. The kid and the monkey that ride in the trunk, and where he pops out of the trunk. That's where the kid was in the cartoon. Like the thing is,
funny.
if you've never seen the cartoon and you watch this, you just go, well, where the hell are these things coming from?
Well, maybe they should have had like the opening credits, be the old school.
They could have, but like I said, it's way ahead of its time. If it was nowadays, it probably would have.
I didn't see it. I don't remember any of that from the old cartoon. I vaguely remember watching it. I don't remember any of that. I still loved it.
Yeah.
And so I don't think you need those things. But I think.
Oh no! I'm just saying. I'm saying it would have helped to get more of an audience if they kind of knew what's going on. Because a lot of the time, you got guys that'll say, well, what's this? I don't get it. Like when they don't like it.
Yeah.
But if they were a little bit more savvy in what was going on, you would see those little things. Because it's just like when you watch comic book movies nowadays and they play to their audience. Yeah. And you'll see maybe an original costume, or like in Luke Cage, when how he has the gold stuff and he looks at himself and he goes, oh, damn, this is ugly or something.
Yeah. Like the only good part of it.
But it's those little things that you appreciate more, right, as a comic book person?
Right.
Well, that's, for people that watched it, when you see those little things, you just get kind of like a little, oh man, look, there it is. Mm-hmm. I knew they were going to do it. Oh, they did it. Oh, look how they did it.
And they kind of did that with this movie. With
full hand.
I think that's what
that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Like, if you were a fan of it beforehand, you knew it. When you see those things, you get the same feeling that you do when you watch a Marvel movie. And you see them do that stuff where you go, oh, damn, that's so cool. Or when in BVS, the only good part was when Batman and Superman came together.
And you saw,
yes. And you were like, I remember that from my childhood.
Okay. Well, I never watched Speed Racer, and then I'm very, very not familiar with anything with Miles Morales and Spider-Man. But I loved Into the Spider-Verse. But something about this movie it's like the whole movie. I don't really remember any. I said a lot. I remember saying a lot, but I don't remember any of the things I said. And that's kind of trippy for me, for a movie. And you can pick apart the whole, the basics of it. And that's what a lot of the critics did, pacing and plot and whatever, the structure and the whole everything that needs to be said. But when it just when you watch it. You can't really put it into words, but I just don't remember having that. I mean, I had fun, but at the expense of the film, not because the film was really good.
See, I had the opposite reaction. I had a really strong emotional reaction to it. It really pulled me in. I also was not familiar with the source material, really, but it was such an engaging story with, such, earnest, heartfelt characters, and I compared to something like Transformers, which is just trying to be realistic and just, having all these, grim, dark colors and just robots clashing, you can't tell what's going on. There's Speed Racer is just bright and beautiful, and people are optimistic, and it's not trying to be like, what if like robots were actually like in disguise and on Earth, and this was real, and Shia LaBeouf was there. It's like, this is not Earth. This is like real Earth. This is not
Wait,
real.
Shia LaBeouf was there?
Yeah, Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, I want to retract my previous statements on this movie. I thought Shia LaBeouf was the driver. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But I'm like,
No, but he fucks an Infomaniac.
Shia LaBeouf.
Oh yeah. That
I-
damn
He
movie.
cheated on his girlfriend and fucks some chick.
they're not trying to
I
make
just
it
thought
like a
you
real.
might want to
Yeah.
hear that.
Yeah.
The best part about it is that it
I
actually
don't think
happens.
that's what was going on.
Yeah, but they're not trying to make it like a real movie. They're trying to make an animated.
I'm
movie.
convinced with movies you could you can make a movie about whatever you want as long as that's your intention. That's good. I don't think the movie's intention was to disorient me, or if it was, then it did a good job.
Either way, it's still a winner.
Bro,
Yeah, I still think it's
so
an underrated masterpiece.
that was fantastic.
Yeah.
I really want to rewatch it again.
Yeah.
Now I'm talking about it, but yeah, I mean, like you said, I kind of want to see more movies nowadays like that that are just colorful and optimistic. Like again, I keep bringing up Doom Patrol, but like we watched like the newest episode, and what I loved about it with the contrast with the Marvel shows is that it's just more colorful, more shit's going on. It doesn't try to be real. It doesn't try to be realistic, and that's what I loved about Speed Racer. I want that wacky shit. I want fucking the saws coming out of the wheels. I want cars jumping over. Like that's what I was like. What made it feel so fun? Because I was like, it's a live action cartoon, and like you don't get that all the time. You get so many movies that are trying to be as real as possible.
And going back to like that, it was a lot. Like it came out at the wrong time because now you have besides Doom Patrol, like the Titans, the Umbrella Academy just came out, which is basically an acid trip. Like you know,
exactly. Oh yeah,
it's Gerard Way's acid trip. but yeah, like. Those things are more acceptable, and I think that's what it's a wonderful thing to have happened that we're allowing all these like out there kind of, but still well written, and it has a great message and things like that. Like it's now people are able to look more easily past like the wackiness and stuff and see like the actual meaning behind the story.
All right, well, guess that's.
Any final words?
Yeah, any final words, guys? I think we
No,
probably said it all.
I recommend it.
Yeah, I would recommend it for
it.
sure. Sergio, I think you're the only one.
No, I recommend it, just not for the same reasons that you guys recommend it for.
But yeah, thanks guys for listening. You can check us out. We have on Facebook, Undercast Company on Facebook. Or send us an email if you have any questions or
Instagram.
Instagram.
Yeah, our
Twitter.
Gmail is just undercastcompany@gmail.com.
Yeah, we'll put the links on the bottom so you can
Links at the bottom. Hit that bell. Subscribe.
subscribe, follow us, put the little notifications.
Follow us we're on all the podcasting apps, iTunes, Spotify, all that good stuff with Google Play.
LinkedIn. Fuck you.
Alan and Ariel, what are you guys doing now?
Alan and Fred.
Alan and Fred, sorry.
Well, no, you can follow me and Alan also on our other venture, District 6. You can check us out there. We do a few other things, other kind of pop culture, nerdy stuff, and things like that also.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram,
All District 6.
Stuff's gonna be at the bottom.
Yeah, District
So
6.
when you jump over there, hit that bell, subscribe.
Like, follow, all that jazz.
And then who we got?
Us two are at Nerd Incorporated on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, and we'll be doing some more other podcasts and gameplay.
And you can find me, Derek Films and Podcasts on YouTube or on Instagram. I do another podcast. It's called Infinity Stones and Dragon Bones. It's about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But yeah, just on Instagram, it's Derek's Photos. So it's DERICK_photos on Instagram. So you search me up there. Check out my other podcast if you like what we've done here, and stay tuned, guys. Because we're going to come out with some other underrated movies, and we hope you enjoy it. Thanks, guys.
Bye. Thanks for being amazing.